good to be here. It's been a while. I'd like to thank everyone who's watching my podcast, and I would very much like to say that there's been some growth in the past 2-3 months, and I appreciate that. But what do I have for you? For now, I think we need to talk about something that originated from an event in my institution here at the Namibia University of Science and Technology. A few weeks ago, we had our annual Institutional Research Week, and the focus was on partnerships between academia and the industry, and directly leading to the question of how academics collaborate with the industry and whether we make the necessary impact, expected from such collaborations. And I'm drawing my title from the discussion. Majority, if not all, on the panel during this particular session agreed very vocally that, and I'm saying in quotes, academics are naive. That academics are naive when it comes to making impacts and in society. And that left me wondering, what are we talking about? Remember, the discussion in context is in Namibia, in Africa. So understand it within the context of Namibia and Africa. I went through this discussion, reflected on it, and I was like, are academics really naive or cowardly? I mean, I would think, either way, the terminology, the term, the word coward, or framed within all sort of phrases came up too many times. So now I'm putting the question out there. Are academics cowards when it comes to engaging with society? When it comes to engaging with policymakers? When it comes to engaging with politics and politicians in the verge of causing good social or societal changes or development? Remember, this is a question. The accusation that the sciences or academia in general are susceptible to the forces of social justice, and its endless politicking may come to some as a surprise. To me, it's not, because I haven't been in academia for a while. I have my own experiences of, not just experiences, but also observations of seeing muteness, silence, when the issue should have been voicing out, when we were expected to be vocal. Now, can we make changes without necessarily engaging? Or is it about how we engage? That remains the question. So, academics, they say, are not making the necessary or real impact. Please, the context should be clearer. And this does not mean in any way or imply that academics are not making impact. The discussion was that they are not really making substantial impact, or impact that could be deemed to be influential in societal development. That left me wondering that if we're to walk across the boundaries of Africa, let's say into Europe, where we know currently there is, Europe is a hot spot at the moment for what I consider to be a tribal war. A war between, the European Union would like to call it an ideological war, the liberal democracy and those that fall outside the liberal democracy, Russia. And I don't know where Ukraine falls within all of this because it's also is the key battleground, but it needs to be secured or in between. That's what they would like to call it. The war between the North and Russia. But we know it's a tribal war in the sense that it's also a war of you are this kind of people that are not our kind of people. And that's what it will be called in Africa, ladies and gentlemen. And so I hope those of you over there do not take offense with me referring it that way. So irrespective of what you call it, you would see that in the frame of these things happening, you don't hear the voice of academics. In fact, it seems as if academics in Europe are simply sitting and looking, but not really doing anything. Wherever the policy of the government goes, they go with it. After all, they need money from the government, they need funding. There's no really strong common sense. Things are led by policies. And we know that policies in Europe is not it's not the hardcore, fully framed sort of policies that we used to know. These days, people walk into the room, I'm speaking with regards to the war, walk into the room and come out with terminologies or statements like, we're gonna seize all Russian assets. But despite that, those of us in the property studies are supposed to understand the sanctity of property and are supposed to protect and champion the sanctity of property. We say nothing. In fact, we write articles, and when I say we, I'm not from Europe, but I'm talking about academics. So when I say we, what I mean is academics actually write articles to fit in with what Brussels and others are saying in order to ensure that they are aligned with these talks in order to maintain the flow of research funds. I think that's cowardice. We've tried these things in places in Asia, in Africa, but there's also this thing in Europe of seizing properties. Of course, they would always say, a limit to freedom. And so this limit to freedom is always evoked whenever we want to take radical actions or irrational action. And someone out there will be wondering, what's he talking about? How did he get into talking about Russia and Europe and then referring to the seizure of Russian assets to be irrational? Now you listen, if that's the direction you're thinking. I think it's irrational when assets are being seized on the basis of individual assets. It's one thing to seize Russian assets, and Russia as a state does have assets in Europe. The embassies, investments owned by the country, the government. I can understand that. that this is a war between governments. But when you start seizing individual assets of Russian citizens, whom by way or the other you can link to have had a drink with Vladimir Putin, or had dinner with him sometime, or campaigned for him at some point in the political system of Russia, I don't know what you think about that. I think that we are not protecting the sanctity of property. Because property right defines the interests, the rights, the privileges, the quantum of everything that relates to rights, restrictions, and responsibilities. So it is in itself an institution. And when we start balkanizing this same institution and, picking and cherry picking and cutting it as we want to fit our political systems, I think it's not rational. But back to the issue here. There's also a lot happening around Europe, Africa, just beyond these wars. In Africa, we have xenophobia happening all around, north, south, east, west, at various degrees. But you never hear academics say anything. I mean, academics can't even stand up and say, hey, what is happening is wrong, because they're afraid of being, are they afraid of being punished? Are they afraid of being kicked out of the countries where they think they earn their living? Whatever happened to academic freedom? I think from this perspective, we live in a cowardly world where academics are busy writing research papers that sometimes never would change anything or do anything in our lives, whereas right in front of us, there are issues that we could simply not even write about, just talk about to give an opinion and maybe join the rational voices. And we don't do it. No, we don't. Back to Europe again, there was the war. Some journals kind of blocked articles coming from Russia. The Russian academics have no business with this war other than the state led by Vladimir Putin is involved in it. But journals have to block submissions or not consider their submissions. But at the same time, a rule is put in place that Ukrainian works from Ukraine and Ukrainian submissions and manuscripts should be processed, or some sort of loyalty around that. This isn't what academics should be doing. Academia should be such that they look at things rationally, present their views rationally, frame their views rationally, and call upon states, institutions, authorities, or individuals with power to do the right thing. Some of you might call it activism, but which isn't bad. However, the same academics are seen doing the opposite, or doing the same, on the opposite side, which is doing the same activism in terms of writing and talking on behalf of states, on behalf of authorities and institutions, for the sake of getting funding, even when it isn't really right. But when we are supposed to do it on the other side, where it should be more direct and positive, we'll hide under other sort of things. From that perspective, one could say that, yes, it's a cocoon of cowardice. We need to do better, because academia should not be just about teaching, writing papers, and walking around in suits or traditional dresses, but rather should be such that what we write, what we teach, and the works we take have to lead to development, or contribute at least to ongoing development, positive societal changes, and anything that can lead to transformation or improvements in the way we live our lives. So, in a way, academics or academia embraces naivety and cowardice when it comes to making societal developments. I think we need to change. Yes, we need to change. Thank you, thank you, thank you, and please, if you like what you hear and want to engage, get down the comment section, leave your comments. Please like, dislike, as well as ensure that you listen to this video from the beginning to the end. Don't judge me yet until you listen to everything. Don't forget the subscribe button. Please tap down there and subscribe. In addition, you've heard me say it, engage in the comment section, like, dislike. Please enjoy. Bye.